Hello, my name is Ruth Whittington, and I'm the Riparian and Wetland AIM Data Analyst and a wetland ecologist with the Colorado Natural Heritage Program. During the following tutorial, I will be demonstrating how to use the known error form and the error review dashboard to review, respond to, and resolve errors during the field season. Information on resolving specific error types can be found in the Riparian and Wetland AIM Data Management Protocol, available on the RNW AIM Fieldwork Team site under Section 5 on Resolving Errors. Error tracking and review is handled through the known error form in Survey 123. If a crew notices any issues during data collection, they can log them by launching a known error form from Field Maps. Let's first take a closer look at this form to see how it's structured before we move on to responding to this error through the dashboard. The known error form can be broken down into 4 different parts. The top section documents information about the plot. This should be filled in automatically when the form is launched from the Field Maps. Next, we have the initial error documentation section. This is where information about the original error is logged. If launching the error on plot, this is where you'll fill in information to help the data team understand the error you're experiencing. Most errors will fall under data error, but you also may have more general technology issues that you want to communicate back to the data team, such as form links not working or issues with the data entry in Survey 123. The third issue type, scripted error check, should not be used by field crews in the field. We'll discuss this issue type once we go back to the error dashboard. Answer other questions in this section to most clearly indicate the problem you had and what the necessary resolution is. Most errors will fall into either general data error or species code issue, but make sure to read the other options in case they apply. The next section of the form is where you'll log a response to the error. Again, we can ignore this section when completing an error for the first time. Species errors will have an additional question here to ask what next steps need to be taken to resolve the issue. Finally, the last section of the form allows us to categorize the status of an error and who needs to review the issue. Here we have 5 status options. Review required might be used if you aren't sure what needs to happen next, but want to send the error on to someone else for a review. Edits required should be used in instances where responses above in the form should be used by the data team to make edits to the data. Catalog error might be used in instances where the issue being logged still exists in the data, but no further action is necessary or possible. For example, if a crew forgot to take the GPS coordinates for a specific form and had to enter them in manually, this might be a way to indicate that the GPS had to be overwritten, but no more action can be taken to take the coordinates with your iPad. End of season edits should only be used by the data team. And finally, if you have been able to resolve the issue highlighted, then the resolve status may be used to archive that error. Let's run through a quick example. Let's say I just finished sampling a plot and suddenly realized I used Salix exigua when I really should have been using an unknown Salix code, Salix 02. I've already added this correct unknown code to my species inventory and unknown plants forms, but I want to get them switched out on my transect forms, so I'll submit a known error. First, I'll put in my name. This is a data error, species code issue. Next, I'll put in the form. You can see that only species forms are available here. In this case, I know that Salix was used, say X was used, but I just want it replaced anywhere it occurred. So I can just select all transect forms. A couple things to note here. First, the data team does not replace codes in species inventory or unknown plants. We instead expect field crews to do this. So I should make sure before I submit this error that my species inventory reflects the correct list of species codes used. Second, there may be instances where the form or transect does matter. Maybe I want Salix to be replaced on one transect, but not others. In this case, I can use the other options to indicate more specifically what I need. But I'll switch back to all transect forms here. Next, I'll put in what happened. I can indicate what I want to happen here. So I want the species code to be switched, and I have to put in the incorrect code and then what I want it to be replaced with. And finally, I just have to indicate who needs to look at this error next, the data team. And then I want edits here, so I'll choose edits required. Once I'm happy with the form, I'll just click the check mark to get it submitted to the data team. All errors can be reviewed once returning from Hitch using the Error Review dashboard, which may be accessed through links available on the Riparian and Wetland Name group page on AGOL. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'll be taking a look at the training error review dashboard. But once the field season gets started, a production version will be available down here. When first opening the dashboard, a quick start guide can be seen by clicking the sidebar on the left-hand side of the screen. After each hitch and before heading back out on their next hitch, crews should use this workflow to resolve and respond to outstanding data errors. The majority of these errors will be generated through a Python script, which scans through the data for a particular field visit and performs a list of basic data checks. This script will be run on each project at least once per week. And the time of the most recent run for a given project can be seen using this widget down here, along with the number of new errors flagged during that run. In addition, errors submitted by the crew from the field can also be seen in this dashboard. For example, we can find the error we just submitted on our iPads right here. At this point, the data team can now see this error and respond to it, whether that's by resolving the error itself or maybe sending it back to the crew if they need additional clarification. An important thing to know about this dashboard is that by the end of the season, there may be a few thousand errors across all states and crews. However, the filtering mechanisms in the dashboard, along with the ability to mark errors as resolved, should hopefully prevent an overwhelming number of errors from being assigned to a single crew at any given time. The better you can do to check off errors throughout the season, the more manageable the workload will be at the end of the season. Using the bar at the top, you can filter down to just the just the errors you want to view right now. So if I was a crew returning from Hitch back from Casper, Wyoming, I could filter this project down to the Wyoming Casper project, and then just select those errors that are assigned to the crew. I also recommend when you're first viewing errors for a particular hitch that you view them site by site. So the reason for this is that sometimes multiple errors over here might be related to each other. So that kind of allows you to figure out what's the underlying cause of some errors. And then some errors may have very similar solutions. So if you have multiple species codes that are missing from unknown plants, so let's say both of these needed to be added here, then viewing site by site might allow you to kind of take care of those problems all at once. The last way this dashboard is going to filter errors is through these 3 different lists. So it's going to separate errors by their error status. So right here, this is the first list. This is looking at all unresolved. So that's going to be review required or edits required errors. But if you ever want to go back and maybe you would need to look back at what exactly happened to a previously resolved error, you can flip over to these other tabs to see errors that no longer are showing up as unresolved. So you're mainly going to be using this unresolved tab, but those other 2 are available if you need to look back at some of the history of a particular site. So I think at this point we're ready to start reviewing the errors themselves, and note that we're really trying to get through all of these errors and essentially get all of them either resolved, so If we can fix the error ourselves, then that's the ideal. Or alternatively, we can also try and just get them off our desk. So push them over to the data team and let them know what needs to happen in order to get the error resolved. In some cases, the error descriptions may be somewhat vague, and they aren't going to give you a step-by-step of what needs to happen. So really, when you're looking through these, it's a process of first assessing what the underlying problem is, and then figuring out what needs to be done in order to resolve the issue. And for this, I really recommend looking at this data management protocol. So again, that's section 5 is going to be the most helpful. But in terms of if you're looking for a step-by-step on what do we do about these problems, this section has a bunch of advice on some of the most common errors and how to get them resolved. So make sure you're looking at that as you're going through the dashboard. As I select things from this list widget, I'm going to be filtering both this and then the known error form down here. So at this point, I could, if there had been a long back and forth between the data team, I could review what's been said about this error down here. This is a new error, so it doesn't really have anything, but in some cases you might get into a situation where there's a lot of back and forth clarifications. So you can review those responses down here. So here we have a bad form count error. So that means there's the wrong number of forms for the natural and human disturbance. So this one has 2 forms. So in this case, I would probably go into my iPad and double check, like, what's the problem here? Did we submit too many forms? And then at that point, once I've assessed, let's say I look at my iPad, I'm like, yep, I submitted a duplicate when I didn't need to. Then I can edit that form and put into the comments something about data team should delete this form. It's a duplicate. And then to actually let the data team know that that problem is out there, I can flip down over to this known error form. At this point, I'm going to scroll past the initial error documentation section, because at this point, I'm now responding to the issue. So I'm going to log a new response, put in my name, and I can put in what needs to happen here. So just let them know what actually needs to happen. And then at this point, I can also reassign it. So I can push it over to the data team, mark it as edits required, and then hit submit. Now, the next time I filter this dashboard, because you'll notice it's no longer assigned to crew. Let's say I filter it again. We'll see that error is now gone. So because it has been reassigned, it's no longer showing up on my list of errors. So next, let's take a look at this species error, because I think this is going to be the most common. You can see even in this example, by far, these species problems are showing up the most. So here we have an unknown code problem. It was found in unknown plants. Or it was not found in unknown plants, but it was used in species inventory and woody structure. So in this case, I'm trying to assess what exactly happened with Salix 04 and what do we need to do to get it resolved. So let's say in this case, I see that and I say, yes, Salix 04 is definitely a valid unknown code. That just means I need to add it to my unknown plants form, and then I can mark this error as resolved. So on the back end, I can go to my iPad, add Salix 04, get that new form submitted. And then once I've checked that off, I can again scroll down to respond to issue, and I can mark it as crew added code to species inventory or unknown plants. I can add another comment. And then because this error no longer exists in the data, I can leave it as crew, that doesn't matter, but I'll get it off my plate by saying it is resolved. and then hit submit. Let's just say in that event, I hit resolved, but I actually had forgotten to do the action. So add Salix-04 to my unknown plants. The next time the script would get run, it would kick this error back out and say, no, you need to take another look. So note that just because you marked it as resolved doesn't mean it's necessarily gone forever. Make sure you're actually resolving the underlying issue. So I think that's a pretty good review of this dashboard. Let me know if there's any questions as you're beginning to review this. And hopefully this is a helpful demonstration to get you started using this. Thanks. Have a good day.